Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and you join me here in Fallout 4 at the Museum of Freedom for the next spooky hidden locations and general creepy spooky stuff in Fallout. So today I wanted to talk about mannequins. So mannequins, you see them quite a lot in the Fallout games, these creepy giant human dolls essentially. They don't really seem to do anything weird in Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas, but they can fool you if you're creeping around somewhere dark and looking out for enemies, and you see a humanoid shape and then you think, oh no, and then you find out it's a mannequin. And obviously they were typically used pre-war in stores for display, usually, displaying clothing, shoes, jewellery, stuff like that, and also in museums. But in Fallout 4, things do get a little bit weird. So, likely one of your earliest encounters is here in Concord, where you come in and we obviously have this little display set up where this lady's staring at a lamppost for some reason. I don't know what's happened to her. But, we've got all these mannequins, most of which are not really dressed, and then the red coats as well. Obviously, the Museum of Freedom tells the story of the United States history since 1776 and all the rest of it. So we've got red coats here, the British ones are here. They do tend to get knocked over very easily, especially when you're fighting off the raiders in this place. But other than that, they seem fairly normal. The obviously just to kind of demonstrate the battles and the fighting that went on, the war for independence and all that kind of stuff. The Boston Tea Party obviously famously happened in Boston. So yeah, but nothing too weird, so that's fine. That is fine. But if we head over somewhere else in Concord, there we go. So if we kind of go across the street here, in Concord, for some reason, the buildings that you can go into that are interiors do have little kind of lanterns or candles outside of them. So there's this place here, which is the Concord Speakeasy. So if you didn't know, speakeasies were secret bars that operated during the Prohibition era, so when alcohol was illegal. So a lot of people were brewing it for themselves and selling it in secret, and they had these kind of underground bars where people could go to have a drink, and it was all very secret and things like that because it was obviously illegal. But on the ground floor you see we've got a bar top, we've got some other bits and pieces. There's some skeletons that were obviously sitting having some beer and smoking cigars until they died. But the real thing about this place is upstairs. So if we head up the stairs into, not that room, there's one of the, this bedroom here. Put the torch on so we can see. So we've got this bed that's kind of collapsed. We've got a skeleton snuggled up to a female mannequin, complete with her base stand. And the skeleton's got his arm around her and things, and they look very snuggly. Fair enough, I guess. Whatever floats your boat. It's, not my kind of thing. Although there is actually a couple of doses of XL here, which is quite nice. That's quite a nice chem for a number of reasons. But yeah, these two look very snuggly. I do think the mannequins are very creepy in general anyway, like those dead eyes and the kind of bland facial expressions. But this isn't too weird. It's weird, but it's not too weird. But if we go into the bathroom, and like you say, you might have seen this before, then we have this scene in front of us. So we've got a skeleton in the bathtub which is full of water and missing a head. We'll get to that. Then we've got these three mannequins standing around the bathtub. One's got a plunger and the other two are holding machetes. Also, obviously, the skull is missing from her skeleton and it's in the toilet, so we've got to assume it's more likely than not that this is this person's skull. So it's kind of sinister, you know. What are these mannequins doing, wielding machetes? Who put them there? Did they move there by themselves? Why is the skeleton missing its head? Who decapitated this person? Were these mannequins placed after the person died? Was somebody just having a bit of fun? Or was it the mannequins that killed this person? Yeah. I guess we'll never know. They might be like the weeping angels from Doctor Who, that they can only move when nobody's looking at them. But yeah, so questions need to be asked. But of course, Museum of Freedom isn't the only museum in this area, so we're gonna take a wee trip over to Salem. Here we go. So we're over here in Salem at the Museum of Witchcraft. Salem obviously is quite infamous for the witch hunts and the witch trials that happened back in the day. That was kind of noted as a mass hysteria event, but the kind of witch hunts were inherited from Europe and from Britain especially, because a lot of that went on here as well. And then obviously as people moved to the colonies, it kind of continued there, and it was all kind of brought with them as they travelled. Oh wow. Yeah, so you can see how spooky this place is. Look at this guy. Wow. That's impressive. That's really impressive. Couldn't have planned that any better myself, but there we go. So yeah, we've got levitating bodies here, and we've got all sorts of things. So when you first come to this location, you maybe know it if you've done the Devil's Due. So there's some gunners here, there's some dead gunners, and there's some outside, and they're talking about how they were chased by something from Lynn Woods, and you get in and you find the pristine Deathclaw egg and the angry Deathclaw. And you learn that they basically robbed the Deathclaw nest, and the mother followed them the whole way and then ended up killing them all, and the Deathclaw somehow got itself stuck inside this building. I'm not sure how the Deathclaw got through any of the doors, but anyway. So yeah, this is the museum, and they make good use of the mannequins here as well, as part of the... You've got to assume that they were part of the display of the museum before the bombs, although I'm assuming that all the mannequins are supposed to have clothes on, but some of them seem to have lost their clothes. And there's definitely some creepy kind of displays. So this one here, obviously we've got a female mannequin against a post on a pile of kind of ash and burnt wood and things, so obviously supposed to be being burned at the stake by the look of it. Interestingly, this didn't actually happen in real life. They weren't really burned at the stake during the witch hunts. They were hanged. So that was the normal thing, is that once they had been convicted of witchcraft, they were hanged, and then dumped in a shallow grave, unceremoniously just buried in a shallow grave after execution. That happened in England, and it also happened in the American colonies, in the New World, as it were, after they're executed. And sometimes the families of people that had been executed would kind of dig them up and then bury them in an unmarked grave in their own property and things like that. But witches being burned at the stake wasn't a thing that actually happened in real life. So the other kind of scene that we could see through, is it through here? Yeah. So this one is more realistic to what actually happened. So we've got a armless mannequin here that's hanging from a tree. Not pleasant. So again, it's kind of spooky, but this, there are records, we do have records of a lot of the people that were executed for witchcraft and being involved in witchcraft. And while it was mostly women, there were men involved as well, and men that were executed because of the accusations of witchcraft and things like that. So it's quite a creepy diorama of, a horrible time in history. But You know, the mannequins are mostly posed for effect, or there is a Grognak the Barbarian in here as well. You know, so part of the kind of museum, obviously somebody's working their magic to make this dead gunner levitate, which is quite funny. I love when the physics engine does that. It's really funny, but you know, most of the rest of the displays are destroyed, so I don't know what these two are supposed to be representing, whether it's kind of, you know, interrogation or record keeping or something like that. And then I would assume this guy's supposed to be, you know, sort of pastor of some kind, because it was, you know, rooted in kind of religion and, you know, the Puritans and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, very, very interesting. But this is more historically accurate. But presumably it was, you know, why else would they have a tree in here and things? It has to be part of the museum display, so it's not that the mannequins themselves are doing anything sinister. So, you know, not unusual really for museums to have mannequins to display, you know, to set up displays of this is what it would have maybe looked like, or to show off, you know, when they have like things like samurai armor and, you know, dresses that belong to Queen Elizabeth I and all that kind of stuff. They have mannequins for them, so that's fair enough. That's not too weird. However, if we head not too far away, but we're going to head up to Parsons State Insane Asylum. Oh, yep, this weird thing when you load into an area that all the bodies just kind of drop. Oh, mysterious serum that I missed. There you go. You can find a couple of doses of that on these raiders. So, of course, you only get access to this place if you do the Cabot family quests. That's how you gain access to this location, and you generally want to do that because it is where the Charisma Bobblehead lives as well. But abandoned asylums are common settings for horror stories, whether it's games, movies, books. You know, I've definitely seen some horror games that are set in abandoned asylums. And, you know, why do we think of these places as being really creepy? And it's largely because the history of mental health care is messy and horrifying. The way people that had mental health problems were treated, the way things were understood, and the kind of treatments that were done to try and manage them. You know, it's a horrible, messy, and very unpleasant history. And I mean, it's certainly something that I could talk about, you know, in relation to how bad that was. It's certainly a topic that I find kind of interesting, if disturbing. Although, actually, somewhat unrelated, but there is a cheeky little possible horror movie reference there. That little tricycle in the carpet, that's a reference to The Shining, which is a very, very good horror film. You know, it's based on a Stephen King book, so you generally can expect good things from that. Jack Nicholson as well. It's a good film. If you like horror movies and you haven't seen The Shining, change that, fix it, because it's a good film. But that's a sneaky wee reference. But no, I think we need to go to the downstairs area through that elevator, because it's the kind of patient rooms is what I'm interested in. So we'll head down in the elevator. But yeah, I mean, some of the things, you know, like electric shock therapy and lobotomies and, you know, even just things like bloodletting, all these kinds of things. And the fact that people were kind of sent to live in these places. You know, they were institutionalized in asylums because they were too troublesome. Yeah, this isn't where I want to be. I think this is taking me to where I want to be. You know, like, I mean, back in the early days, even things like, you know, women who was pregnant out of wedlock, or asking too many questions, that kind of thing. So, you know, there was a lot of kind of abuse. Oh, hello. I don't know how you survived, but anyway. You know, just some horrible, horrible things that were done to people who were suffering from mental health problems before they were really very well understood. And obviously things are much better, but it is a reason that these kinds of places are much creepier, you know, because of that kind of history. But yeah, this place, what I want to ask here is, why is there so many mannequins in this asylum? Like, okay, this one is an actual skeleton and a formal hat, which is fancy. But, you know, this patient room, there's a mannequin in the bed and a toaster, and another formal hat. Interesting. Yeah, there's a mannequin there. So there's like, if you explore this place thoroughly, there's mannequins everywhere. And my question is, why? Like, what was the purpose of having mannequins in an asylum, an insane asylum? So, you know, it's for people that suffer from mental health problems. And for some reason, they've put mannequins everywhere. Because, like, you know, people, they're just everywhere. There's a storage room somewhere, maybe down here, that is full of them. Children's toys and things. Oh, Nickel Quantum, I'll take that. That I'm sure there's supposed to be a storage room somewhere that's full of mannequins toppled over. And just got to wonder why. Like, wouldn't that be, you know, are they part of some weird treatment attempt for people with mental health disorders? Are they there just to play pranks on the staff? Are they there to play pranks on the patients? Because, you know, people that already have, like, paranoia, you know, if they're schizophrenic or something like that, having creepy mannequins dotted around probably wouldn't be helpful, to my mind. I would think that would be, you know, even more uncomfortable. So if, you know, that wasn't the case, where they brought here after the war, was somebody just having a bit of fun, you know, I mean, mannequins are creepy. Like, there's no doubt about it. These ones are all face down. You know, when you look at them, they're soulless dead eyes, and their kind of blank stare, and their bland facial expressions. They're just creepy to look at. And I can tell you, I have got an anecdote of my own. So I've probably mentioned it before in previous videos, but you can tell from my profile picture on here that I used to be a cosplayer. I haven't actually done anything in that vein for quite some time due to my health issues and things like that, and, you know, having to give up my job, which means I don't really have the money to go travelling down to London to go to Comic Con anymore, unfortunately. So, but when I was making my cosplays for painting, clothing and things, it's really good to have a human sized model, and since it was just me, I couldn't do it myself. So I had to have something that could wear the outfit so that I could continue working on it. So I own one of these mannequins. She's currently living in storage, but she's called Lola because she had to have a name, and I would always tend to put clothes on her as well, you know, when she wasn't modelling costumes for me. But, you know, she was creepy, and yeah, this is the room that's got all the monkeys in it. And there was one time in my old flat, this was a few years ago now, I went out with my boyfriend at the time, who's now thankfully my ex, and I left the light on in the flat because we were just going to the shop and then coming back, and I left the light on, and then we drove past. He was driving, I wasn't. And we drove past to go to the parking bit, and I was like, who is that in my living room? I honestly just saw that it looked like there was a person standing in my living room, and I was freaking out that somebody was in my flat. But it was just Lola, just the mannequin. So, you know, even having one in my house for all these years, I still find them very creepy. So like the house that I in the process of selling, she could have her own room and I didn't have to look at her when I wasn't using her. But you know, it's they are very, very creepy, and you know, it does give a bit of atmosphere, I think, to the Fallout games. But I just don't understand why this place has so many of the bloody things. You know, it just seems kind of weird to me. Because what would be the purpose when you're dealing with patients with, you know, mental health problems and things like that, and you think it's funny to just pose mannequins around the place. But yeah, I kind of wonder, you know, was it a patient that did this? Was it the survivors after the bombs fell that did it? Maybe they were just thinking, oh, this will be funny for anybody else that comes here. Did Jack Cabot get bored? You know, he's been around for a few hundred years, then, you know, you have to find your own entertainment sometimes. I don't know. But that's enough museums and creepy hospitals, so let's... Oh, hang on, there we go. Let's take in a show instead. So we're going to head over to another location as soon as I can remember where it is. Combat zone, yeah. So it's not the combat zone itself, but it's near there, because this one's an unmarked location. Okay, so yeah, we've got the combat zone here, so we want to head south from here. I think kind of to the southwest. That's the place. Yeah, here we go. So this here is the Warren Theatre. So it's just kind of to the south of the combat zone. It is an unmarked location. So I'm going to put boy lights off. I'm going to go into sneaky mode for this one. Yeah, so this is Warren Theatre. So it's an unmarked location. There's obviously a little kitchen where you could get sort of snacks and drinks and things like that, which... most theatres. There's also the Jamaica Plain poster. Apparently you can walk through this wall. Yeah. For some reason that wall has no clipping on it. But yeah, and then obviously this would be like the ticket desk. So I'm going to head upstairs to wait for the lift. Great. Okay. A lot of elevators today. Here we are. So yeah, here we go. The auditorium, we've got more mannequins. So there's a scene set up on stage. So we've got some red coats, we've got some naked people. But we've been detected. One of these things is not like the others. Do you see it? So, yeah. He's aware of us. Hi. Oops. Oh, they all fell down. Oh well. Oh, there's Jackals the Moon Monkey. That's quite funny. We've got some teddy bears and monkeys in the seats and some humans as well. Very small theatre. I have to say, it's not, you know, you're not going to be seating a massive number of people in this auditorium, but yeah, so this is a kind of fun little thing. We've got some clothes backstage and stuff, you know, that you come into this tiny theatre and then there's a scene set up on stage with all the mannequins, but there's just this synth that's just trying to blend in with the mannequins. how long was he waiting there? Was he just been standing there waiting to jump scare the first person that wanders into this theatre? Why is he here? Did he get lost and wonder why all these other synths were so quiet and still? Who knows? But yeah, it's kind of a fun little thing, because if you're not expecting it, it could be a bit of a jump scare that this synth is just hanging out with these mannequins and trying to blend in. So, you know, fair enough. That's a case of a mannequin that's not a mannequin that's coming to life. So that's fine. That's not creepy. Right. We shall see. But yeah, so even going to the theatre's not safe anymore. Let's take a vacation. Okay, we're back in Far Harbour here, so I'll show you where we are in the map. So we're at Fringe Cove Docks, which is in the kind of southwestern edge of the island. So the lighthouse there, and the shrine is up there. I think that's Nucleus, yeah. And Pop Factory over there. So Fringe Cove Docks, because that was obviously, we just saw it was a, oh, there's Fireworks, hang on. Yeah. Of course there's Mirelurks. You know, that was a synth that was pretending to be a mannequin. Because mannequins aren't really alive. You know, they don't move on their own or come to life like we see in Toy Story. That would just be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Is that gulpers? So many creepy crawlies, but I'm going to have to deal with them before we get into anything. Oh, anglers. Essentially, there's a boat here somewhere. It's kind of sunken. This one. Huh. Okay. I have never seen this before. Oh, it's really hard to see because the water's so murky, but we have a cannon, a literal cannon, and some cannonballs, and a teddy bear. I have never in my life seen that. I did not know that was here. Wow. That is quite funny. Let's see, where are we on the map? The current's moving me. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's really funny. Yeah. Wonder what he's shooting at. Through the seaweed. No target that I can see. Wow. Oh, it's really dark under here. Sorry, guys. I know this. It's really hard to see. Okay. Right. I think I found the location now. So we should be able to just follow this and find it. Just underwater visibility is terrible, but so is above water visibility, but I think now I can see it. Yeah. So there's obviously a bit of the mast sticking out with a deceased person. Can you see that? That gave me a scare there. Look, we've got some floating mannequins. A bunch of them. So if we head down into the ship. Is it in there? There's a... It's maybe in the other part. Yeah, so this was a cargo ship, a cargo vessel that was transporting mannequins. So there's literally loads of them floating about. I think if we can... yeah, we've got some. There's one here that's still standing impressively, and you can see, well, I don't know how well you can see. Yeah, he's got a board, so he's got the melee weapon, and there's also a skeleton here. And why is this one not floating? But there's actually a note here. Can't wait to drop off these damn mannequins. The crew is starting to claim that they're hearing weird noises from the cargo. Maybe they're just playing pranks on me. Whatever, we're almost there. So yeah, the crew who seem to be scattered around here, we're hearing strange noises from the cargo, from the mannequins that they were transporting, and then somehow the ship has sunk. But this scene here, raises some questions. We've got a skeleton, and we've got a mannequin that's armed with a board, which is like the wooden, it's the basic kind of melee weapon, the wooden board. And, you know, he's not floating. This guy's floating, and so are these guys. Oh gosh. See what I mean? It's that you turn around and you see something that's kind of humanoid, and you kind of go, ah! They call it the uncanny valley effect, where, you know, seeing something that looks human but isn't human is kind of scary, and spooky, and makes you feel kind of weirded out and things. And that's kind of, where did all the mannequins go? There was, what? Like, this isn't a bit or anything. I genuinely, there was loads of mannequins floating in the water, and now they're all gone. What on earth? See? This is why they're creepy. Where have they gone? Oh, I don't like it. Ugh. Like, when we got here, there was loads of them floating on the surface of the water, and now there's not. They've gone. So, yeah, safe to say the mannequins might well be actually alive and just hiding in plain sight, pretending to be inanimate. But where did all the ones floating on the surface of the water go? That's really weird. That's really weird. But yeah, they're gone now. So let's get back to shore, because that's kind of spooky. So, you know, it's definitely a creep factor when it comes to the mannequins. No doubt about it. And I think that's proof right there. So it might be that there is something up with these mannequins that we find in Fallout 4. Maybe there is more than meets the eye. I guess it just depends what you believe. But yeah, that was so I wish I could say that was something that I did on purpose and made them all disappear just for effect, but it's, I promise it's not. That's something that it just happened. So yeah, be careful of unattended mannequins, because, you know, it does look like that one in the ship killed somebody, maybe the captain, I don't know. But they definitely add a creep factor. I don't think anybody can deny that. They are very, very creepy. But are they just watching us and waiting for the right moment to strike? What do you think? Let me know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is there any more kind of creepy mannequin poses or anything that you've seen in the games that has kind of creeped you out in that way? Definitely let me know in the comments, because this is fun. You know, I do like horror stuff sometimes, and you know, it's kind of funny. I'm somebody that laughs when you know, when I get a fright and things, I tend to laugh at the situation. But yeah, that was genuinely creepy. The fact that I'm like, oh look, and I'm going to double check the recording. That there was definitely mannequins floating on the water when we got to the ship, and then they've all disappeared since since we resurfaced. Because that was really creepy. And yeah, let me know what you think. About the mannequins. Do you think that they are actually alive? Maybe they are, I don't know, the Institute have made them, who knows. Well, there's something walking about down there. I'm assuming it's just a mire lark, but we're going to walk away anyway. Yeah. I mean, this place is quite good for spooky atmosphere anyway, with all the fog and the mist and things. It's, yeah, very on theme for Halloween. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you've found any other locations with creepy mannequin shenanigans elsewhere in the Wasteland. I'd love to hear it, and I'll maybe check them out for another video in the future. But thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I've had a bit of an influx of new subscribers in the last couple of days, which is really exciting, so welcome. I hope you enjoy what's coming in the future. I do have some interesting things planned for the next couple of weeks, so I will catch you all next time. Bye!